In music, syncopation involves a variety of rhythms which are in some way unexpected, which make part or all of a tune or piece of music off beat. More simply, syncopation is a general term for a disturbance or interruption of the regular flow of rhythm, a placement of rhythmic stresses or accents where they wouldn't normally occur. Syncopation is used in many musical styles, and is fundamental in styles such as ragtime, jazz, jump blues, funk, gospel, reggae, dub, hip-hop, breakbeat, UK garage, dubstep, drum bass, progressive electronic dance music, progressive rock/metal, groove metal, nu metal, samba, baião, and ska. All dance music makes use of syncopation, and it's often a vital element that helps tie the whole track together. In the form of a black beat, syncopation is used in virtually all contemporary popular music. Syncopation has been an important element of European musical composition since at least the Middle Ages. J.S. Bach and Handel used syncopated rhythms as an inherent part of their compositions. Haydn used it to create variety. Syncopation was used by Mozart, Beethoven, and Schubert, especially in their symphonies, for both purposes. This can be heard in Mozart's 38th and Beethoven's 7th. Syncopation is an essential part of the character of some musical styles, such as jazz and ragtime. Hungarian Czardas song dances are always syncopated. The Scotch snap of Scotland also features syncopation. Syncopation can also occur when a strong harmony is placed on a weak beat, for instance when a seventh chord is placed on the second beat of 3/4 measure, or a dominant is placed at the fourth beat of a 4/4 measure. The latter frequently occurs in tonal cadences in 18th and early 19th century music and is the usual conclusion of any section. A hemula can also be seen as one straight measure in 3 with one long chord and one short chord, and a syncope in the measure thereafter, with one short chord and one long chord. Usually, the last chord in a hemula is a dominant, and is such a strong harmony on a weak beat, hence a syncope. Types of syncopation. Technically, syncopation occurs when a temporary displacement of the regular metrical accent occurs, causing the emphasis to shift from a strong accent to a weak accent. Syncopation is, however, very simply, a deliberate disruption of the 2 or 3 beat stress pattern, most often by stressing an offbeat, or a note that is not on the beat. Cognitively, Temperley argues that most accurately syncopation can be described as involving displacement. In a syncopation, an accent that belongs on a particular strong beat is shifted or displaced to a weak one. Missed beat syncopation. Syncopation itself may look as simple as follows, involving the addition of a rest. This is an example of the missed beat type of syncopation, in which a rest is substituted for an expected note. This can occur on any beat in a measure. The natural stress of the meter has been disrupted a Euro 1 2, 3, 4, which is strange, because we want to keep hearing that non-existent quarter note that would carry the downbeat in the middle of the measure. This type of syncopation creates tension in a musical piece. Physical effects. Missed beat syncopation causes a physical effect in the body of the listener as their body moves to supply the missing beat. Also, complex syncopation has been used to overload the brain to induce abreaction and as a prelude to brainwashing. Suspension. This may be thought of as a suspension, as in the following example, with 2 points of syncopation where the third beats are carried over from the second beats rather than missed. In the same way, the first beat of the second bar is carried over from the fourth beat of the first bar. Applier. Though syncopation may be highly complex, dense or complex-looking rhythms often contain no syncopation. The following rhythm, though dense, stresses the regular downbeats, 1 and 4, applier. However, whether it's a placed rest or an accented note, any point in a piece of music that moves your perspective of the downbeat is a point of syncopation because it's shifting where the strong and weak accents are built. Even note syncopation. For example, in meters with even numbers of beats, the stress normally falls on the odd number beats. If the even-numbered beats are stressed instead, the rhythm is syncopated. Accordingly, the former implies duple meter while the latter implies quadruple meter. Offbeat syncopation. The stress can shift by less than a whole beat, so it falls on an offbeat, as in the following example where the stress in the first bar is shifted back by an eighth note applier, whereas the notes are expected to fall on the beat applier. Playing a note ever so slightly before, or after, a beat is another form of syncopation because this produces an unexpected accent applier. It can be helpful to think of a 4/4 rhythm in eighth notes and count it as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. In general, emphasizing the, and would be considered the offbeat. Anticipated bass. Anticipated bass is a bass tone that comes syncopated shortly before the downbeat, which is used in San Montano Cuban dance music. Timing can vary, but it usually falls on the 2+ as well as the 4 of the 4/4 time, thus anticipating the third and first beats. This pattern is commonly known as the Afro-Cuban bass tumbao. Transformation. Richard Middleton suggests adding the concept of transformation to Nama's prosodic rules, which create rhythmic successions in order to explain or generate syncopations. The syncopated pattern is heard with reference to, in light of, as a remapping of, its partner. He gives examples of various types of syncopation, Latin, backbeat, and before the beat. First, however, one may listen to the audio example of stress on the strong beats, where expected, applier, Latin equivalent of simple 4/4. This unsyncopated rhythm is shown in the first measure directly below. The third measure depicts the syncopated rhythm in the following audio example, in which the first and fourth beat are provided as expected, but the accent unexpectedly lands in between the second and third beats, creating a familiar Latin rhythm known as tresillo, applier, backbeat transformation of simple 4/4. The accent may be shifted from the first to the second beat in duple meter, creating the backbeat rhythm familiar in rock drumming beatbox stereotypes. Different crowds will clap along at concerts on either 1 and 3 or 2 and 4, as above. Satisfaction example. The phrasing of satisfaction, a good example of syncopation, is derived here from its theoretic unsyncopated form, a repeated trichi. A backbeat transformation is applied to I, and can't, and then a before the beat transformation is applied to can't, and no. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, repeated trichi, ae I can't get no, oh, backbeat trans ae I can't get no, oh, before the beat, ae I can't get no, oh. Applier. This demonstrates how each syncopated pattern may be heard as a remapping, with reference to, or, in light of, an unsyncopated pattern. See also anacrusis, counting, tonsillabos, syncopation, syncope and epenthesis, analogous linguistic concepts where vocal rhythm causes the loss or addition of sounds to a word. Notes. References. Sayer, Philip, Alan B. Novick and Paul Harmon. What Makes Music Work? Forest Hill Music. ISBN 0-9651344-0-7. External links, Syncopation in Dance and Music, on Syncopation.